Burnouts. Welcome to another episode of the Burnout Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Christian Felipe, aka the Chief Burnout, aka Fired Up Felipe, aka let's just get right into it. On this episode, we're going to be covering a few games. We're recapping the Heat at Knicks, or Knicks at Heat win. The game was at home for the Heat. We're going to be recapping that close one. We're also going to be recapping this game that just happened last night, the Warriors at Heat, which the G League Warriors, really, there was no Jimmy, no Kuminga, no Steph, no Draymond, no Horford. It was a whole lineup of players who were out for this game. We'll be getting into a little bit of the drama around that, as well as the actual game itself. Those are 2 wins in a row for the Heat on a little 2-game win streak. We got Bam back for the Warriors game, and while limiting his minutes, he still looked great. He looks like Bam that we were seeing to start the season. So hopefully he can continue to pick up where he left off and just keep doing this run. Maybe get himself an all-star bid along with Powell. We'll see. Can we get those 2? Then we'll also be previewing the next 2 games for the Heat. Yes, we have 2 more games before I will be recording again. This is taking place Thursday. This will be dropping today. And then we'll be recording again on Sunday, which before then we will be playing a NBA Cup game against the Bulls. This is a do or die game in terms of whether or not we can advance in the cup. If you go down 0-2 in the cup, you're screwed. You're done. Or rather, just even 2 losses in general, you're pretty much done. You have to make sure at the very least you're 2-2 in your cup games, at the very least. So it's feeling like a do or die game. So hopefully we can win that. That's at home for the Bulls, an away game for the Heat. Chicago is playing fairly well as of recent. So we'll see. Normally we beat them in the play-in tournament. Now we're doing it in the NBA Cup. Maybe we can get a win there. And then last but not least, the Heat will also be playing the 76ers later this week. 76ers have also been playing fairly well. VJ Edgecombe has come down to earth just a little bit, but Tyrese Maxey is still running as fast as ever. I believe Joel Embiid may or may not be out with an injury again. He was starting to ramp up, starting to play really well, and I think he tweaked his knee. Don't know whether or not he will actually play against us, and it does make a big difference for them. Not that they are pushovers without Embiid. They've proven that they can win games just off the strength of the rest of their roster. So we'll be getting into all that. We'll be talking some random NBA-related stuff. LeBron just started his 23rd season. We'll definitely be talking about that just a bit. A record. No one has ever played 23 seasons in the NBA. We'll get into all that and more after this. Let's get right into it. Today it is just me. We'll be recapping, as I said, just 2 of these games here that we played. I'm going to go, well, not that I wasn't on the court, but I'm going to often refer to us as we, because I'm a Heat fan, I'm a Heat lifer. That's just how it is. We're going to start actually with the most recent game. We're going to talk through the Warriors at Heat that was last night. This was not the full strength Warriors. In fact, it was just about as many players as they could leave out. We did not have Draymond. We did not have Steph. We did not have Kuminga. We didn't have Horford. We didn't have Jimmy. We'll talk about that a little bit. In fact, let's just start with that. I do think it's interesting that what happened there, because it had seemed like the issue was mostly with him in the front office, but based on everything we're seeing now, it seems like he soured the milk with more than just them. Jovic had kind words to say about him prior to this game, saying that he still looks at him as a brother, etc., and that he always looked up to him and, still looks up to him. It's all love. But Bam just kind of brushed it off and said he wanted to move on from talking about that, which was interesting. And then to end the game, Steph and Draymond stay on the court talking with Bam, talking with Norm, talking with our players. And Jimmy just left. He went straight to the locker room. So questionable, just very odd. Don't really know what happened there. It's kind of sad to see because they had such a good history, and then now you're not even going to talk to people you went to the finals with. Like, we had some runs, but whatever. That's not the point. I mean, it is going to be a story coming out of this game. I did take a bunch of notes prior to the game, going through what the Warriors' offense and defensive rating is, and how good they are at rebounding or not good at rebounding, really, and what their defense allows. They allow a lot of mid-rangers, which, I mean, even with all those players out, they still did allow mid-rangers. But that stuff is really kind of pointless to talk about when their players didn't play. The game was extremely fast paced. It was a pace of 106, I believe, like right around what the Heat are playing at. That's not typically what the Warriors play at, but they had their younger guys in, not their old guys. I mean, I think Buddy Hield was still playing, but regardless, it's not. Most of those notes aren't really applicable anymore. It felt more like a trap game, and honestly, up until a stretch in the fourth quarter that was extremely exciting. It was a trap game. It was way too close of a game. Both teams shot terribly. The Heat shot 40.6% from the field. The Warriors shot 35.8% from the field. The Heat were at least hitting their threes, but the Warriors were not. The Warriors were kind of kept in the game just through offensive rebounding, really, and some sloppy plays by the Heat. The Heat won the turnover battle, but the Heat did have some as well that kind of led to some of those scores for them going into that fourth quarter, keeping the game close. And it was just a quiet game from everybody, really, until the fourth quarter. It's interesting too, knowing that how we're playing right now with Wiggins at the 4, which I don't love. He played well. Somehow he actually had the highest plus minus on the team this game with a plus 25. But regardless, I mean, he's not a true 4. The rebounding still becomes an issue when we have him at the 4. This game, not as much, thankfully, but still an issue. And then we're having to stagger Bam and Ware the same way we were staggering Ware and Jovic, because this game Jovic was out and he had his, hip issue, and we were also playing Bam limited minutes. He only played like 28 something, didn't even hit the 29 mark. So we didn't want to play him too much. There wasn't really a lot of room to have them overlap ever, which I was kind of hoping we would see more of, just to get them more reps overlapping. I think ultimately that'll be a lineup we have to go to quite a bit. I don't think in the playoffs, depending on who you're playing against, of course, that Wiggins at the 4 is a long-term solution. But nonetheless, we will kind of see how that goes and how that develops throughout. And hopefully Jovic is back sooner than later. A few notable things that happened in this game. Bam's first points since coming back from injury were a 3. He shot a 3-pointer, and then he went 3 of 3 from the game from 3. So just wonderful to see that he's picking up where he left off. The defense was smothering. He was aggressive everywhere and just shutting plays down, and then also running the ball up the court as he always does. So that was cool to see. Powell had a very, very quiet game until he scored 17 in the fourth. And he was just a flamethrower in the fourth. It was just nonstop. He's really what ended the game. He kind of just checked in and finished them. But I will say that fourth quarter run really, and Spo even said it himself, was sparked by Drew Smith. Drew Smith had this ugly pass that was meant, I think, for Jaime, went out of bounds, and it hit Spo in the chest pretty much. Spo caught the ball, but it was just a bad turnover. And then after that moment, I think he followed that up with a steal, was able to recover a ball off of a forced turnover. He back tapped. Yeah, there was a fast break where Hield was running with the ball, and he back tapped it off of Hield's leg. So it went off out of bounds off of Hield and forced that turnover. And then from there, we kind of just, the momentum picked up. Once Davion checked back in the game, he was unrelenting as always. And then, as we already talked about, Powell was just scoring. Bam also did some fourth quarter scoring as well, just kind of playing from the nail, breaking apart that zone, which the zone was an issue for the Heat again today. I do think it took them a little while to find their stride, but Bam is definitely helpful when it comes to breaking apart that zone, being able to play from the nail there and just hit shots or facilitate the offense. He just, he has so much to his game. Nonetheless, I mean, it was an unreasonably close game. We should never felt like we were going to lose the game, but it happens, and we won. That's what matters. We got a dub on the sheet. We're 2 games in a row of winning. Bam had his first game back. We beat the, G League Warriors, and that's about as happy as you could be about the game. It's, just unfortunate that we didn't get to see Steph and Draymond play as well. It would have been a different game. It's not as black and white to say, oh, if they played, then they for sure would have won based on how the game went. That's not really how it works, but nonetheless, it would have been a different game and maybe a more fun, maybe a more exciting game, but we didn't get that. I'm glad I didn't spend money on tickets. I hadn't been to a game yet, and I was considering buying tickets to this game, and, didn't want to, and yeah, I would have overpaid seeing as no one played, really. But yeah, that was just happy that we beat the trap game, happy that we're moving on, and that we can not talk about the Jimmy Bam thing for at least another 3-ish months. I forget when we play again, but it won't be at home. It won't be in Miami, at the very least. We did have some milk or wine takes going into this game. We had Jaime going off, mostly through facilitating the offense, which, I mean, he did have 7 assists. He had a pretty high plus minus. The shot wasn't falling, so not drinking wine on here about it, but not drinking milk either. He was playing well. And Jaime in general, man, even despite the shooting has been a little bit of an issue the past few games, defenses are keying in on him differently. Breaking the zone has been an issue for him. I think once we're healthier and he gets more accustomed to it, both those things together will help. But all of Jaime's two-man lineups, surprisingly, with Jovic is his best one, or one of the highest ones with 13.2 net rating. But that typical bench unit of Jaime, Wiggs, Fontecchio, Drew, and Jovic is plus 4.5. It's our second most played lineup, and it's a bench unit, and it's really good. I think the broadcast had said the Heat have the third highest scoring bench in the league right now, and that's considering the two of our starters, well, one has been out the whole season and one has been out for the past few games. So that bench scoring will continue to go up as players who are starting right now move down into the bench. Like Larson will likely be moving back into that bench unit, but he's been playing spectacularly in the starting unit. And going into this, moving on, that's it for the Warriors game. We'll move back to the Knicks game that the Heat played just a couple days ago. This was the repeat. We played them at home this time. Brunson was not there. OG did not play. Bam, of course, did not play. Jovic did play in this one. And Cat played, but was pretty quiet most of the game until the end of the game. He was 0 for 6 from three until he hit a three at the end of the game to really make it a very, 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 very close game that it was a fun game. I will say it was a fun watch, more fun than this Warriors game, without a doubt. I mean, the fourth quarter of the Warriors game was exciting, but it definitely felt like both teams were throwing a lot of punches at each other and just kind of seeing who could come out of it. Just some notes that I had from this, where the question going into it was, will Ware be able to limit the offensive rebounds, especially from Robinson? And, Ben Stiller had that tweet coming at UD kind of talking about how it will happen again. And Robinson still got his rebounds in limited minutes. If you look at the game, Robinson didn't get most of those over Ware. And so you can't really put that on Ware. And Ware was a machine rebounding this game. Let's look at that box score for us right here. Ware had 14 total rebounds with 6 offensive rebounds. So a great rebounding game from Ware. 6 offensive rebounds is nothing to scoff at. The curse continues of these back-to-back games against the same team. We split it 1-1. I had a question going into this game if we would stop giving away easy steals and fast breaks to Macau. He had 7 steals in the first game and 2 steals in this one. So that was wonderful to see cleaned up. I was hoping we'd be able to continue to put their bigs in foul trouble, maybe even foul them out. That was a wash a little bit. We got Cat with 5 fouls, so that was limiting him a bit. Robinson only had 2, but nonetheless, I don't think you're ever going to foul out Robinson the way they play him. They play him such limited minutes. And I was wondering if Powell was going to have a second game, because that first game against the Knicks that we lost, he was spectacular, scoring nonstop, and I thought we would need it, but we didn't. Friendship wins, and we were able to win this game through, just a splattering of different contributions. I want to for sure shout out Ware. That game-saving block that they almost called a goaltend that was definitely not a goaltend. Just wonderful. I saw this on Reddit and it was hilarious, but just the idea of him spamming the block button at the end after the game-saving block when they had those 12 seconds to run it in, and he was just pogo sticking, just jumping up and down, trying to get a block on anybody that was coming through, and didn't get a block, but maybe deterred some shots, and we ended up winning. The Heat ended up winning the game. There were 21 lead changes in this game. The biggest lead was 10, and that was with 3 minutes left in the fourth, and then the Knicks kind of evaporated that lead pretty quickly off of some well-timed threes from them that McBride was hitting some shots that were just insane. Just looking if there was any other notes specific player-wise, I did want to Pella being able to draw offensive fouls on much bigger guys, like drawing them on Cat, was just insane. It just speaks to his toughness. His shot has also been way more trustworthy this season. He's shooting 38% from 3 overall, 42% from the corners, which was up from 34 and 38 respectively. So a 4% bump on both those, which is great to say. Ware's stats also just these past few games, like 4 or 5 games, have been just wonderful. The 4 games prior to this one, prior to the Heat Warriors game, so I'm not including those into this cumulative thing, but 15 points, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks, an assist, a steal, shooting 65.8% from the field, 60% from 3 on very limited threes. 87.5 on free throws, playing 32 minutes a game. Yeah, he was just been wonderful, and happy to see the continued growth from him, from this second-year guy who's still very young. So I'm happy we didn't trade him, and I'm happy to see that he is taking feedback on the chin and being able to continue to improve, because the Heat are going to need it if not just this season, but moving forward here on out, if depending on what we're hoping for, right? We need to see growth from where and what he can become. And if he can become this defensive stretch five who can rebound, who can shoot, who can, run the ball sometimes. I think he gets a little nervous doing that, running the ball up the court. He kind of stops and wait for someone else to take it. But he can take people off the dribble sometimes. Now that he's done that much this season, he did it in the preseason. I'm hoping to see a little bit more of that where he just kind of runs past somebody because he's agile, he's athletic. His layup package and his dunk package, if you see some of the stuff he's doing out there, I mean, he is very, very gifted. And if he can just put it all together or continue to keep putting it all together, I'm seeing what the players are seeing, that the sky really is the limit with Khalil Ware. It's a question mark what he can become and what his peak will be. Truly, truly don't know. Like does he have the potential to be an all NBA player? Maybe. Maybe. I don't That's hard, a top 15 player in the league is hard to get to, but he's only 2 years in. You see this with different players at different times, the way that they grow. Growth is not linear. Look at Jalen Duren. He hadn't had, he always showed potential, but now he's balling out and having one of the best seasons that we've seen. It's Jalen Brunson was a late bloomer. Shai Gilgeous was a late bloomer. Of course, I'm not necessarily saying he's going to be in the air of all these guys, but the point being is we're too quick to assume what someone will or won't be based on like their first couple of seasons when oftentimes they're very young. And even when they're not, it takes time. Look at Jaime from year 2 to year 3. You got to give these guys time to grow into what they're going to be. Even Bam, that growth took time, and seeing him now is wonderful from where he came from. But nonetheless, happy we beat the Knicks. Always happy to beat the Knicks. It was funny. They hadn't won an away game yet in their time. They've played a bunch of home games, and the only other team to not win an away game at that point in the season was the Pacers, which have been terrible and injury riddled, and just a sad story over there. But they did break that streak. The Knicks did win their first away game against the Mavericks, and it was a close one. They almost had to go into OT. The refs called it off on an offensive foul, but they finally won their first away game of the season. We'll see if they can actually become the juggernaut that people were assuming they would be once they're fully healthy, once OG and Jalen Brunson are back in this lineup. What are they going to be able to do, right? Quickly, before we go into previewing some of the next games, I also did want to mention 2 things about the Warriors thing. As far as the rest, as much as I would have wanted Jimmy to play, and I want to call him soft for not playing, they're an old team. They were on the second night of a back-to-back. They lost against the Magic last night, 2 nights ago. And Steph had tweaked his ankle, retweaked it. So they needed to obviously sit him out for injury, and the rest, they just decided to sit out for rest. They've played 5 back-to-backs this season. Other teams in the league have only played 3 or 2. Some haven't even played 2. So they by far have had the most back-to-backs. They're one of the oldest teams in the league. And it kind of just makes sense that they were going to rest all their guys. So can't really blame them. Can't really go at Jimmy calling him soft for this game. I wouldn't have expected him to be out there trying to carry the team by himself and risk injury when Steph is out, Draymond's out, Kuminga's out. It just made more sense for them to take the schedule loss after 5 back-to-backs and see if they can get back to whatever they're doing afterwards. Also did just want to mention too, because it's been a story, Steph leaving Under Armour. And man, it really puts into perspective, as a guy who works in advertising, how badly Under Armour fumbled Steph Curry. Because even now, he's one of the biggest TV draws. It might not be what all the kids are wearing shoes of anymore and stuff, but at his peak, like when they were going toe to toe against Bron in the finals and even past that, like every kid's favorite player was Steph Curry. Every young kid, people younger than me, favorite player was Steph Curry. They even were wearing his shoes despite the lack of advertising, and they were rocking his jersey. It was just, he changed basketball. He single-handedly changed the way teams play basketball. And to think that there's not like one iconic commercial from Under Armour with Steph Curry, it's insane to me just that they never were able to land that, like let alone one, not even one. I looked at a few from a few years ago, and the most recent searches that come up are from 10 and 9 years ago. That's when I looked up Curry Under Armour ad. There's been some that are more recent than that, but they weren't great by any means. And I don't know, it's just like you had like a Jordan moment almost. Like he's not Michael Jordan, obviously, but you had the most famous, or at least tied for most famous player in basketball who changed the complete way the game is played, who all the kids looked up to, and you couldn't build more off of that to the point that you lost him. It's just wild to me that they were not able to better utilize that. That's an incredible fumble, one of the biggest fumbles. I truly don't know how that happens and what went on behind the scenes there. I would love one day to hear stories from Under Armour execs or advertising execs to kind of talk about what happened there and why there was just a lack of anything. It reminds me of like New Balance kind of fumbling Kawhi. They've started to use him more now and like a year or two removed from that championship. But I remember there was those ads about Boardman gets paid. They were like billboards showing up after Toronto won the championship. And they didn't very quickly capitalize on any of it. And it's like you have this moment, it's a flash in the pan with him. With Steph, it was prolonged, which is what makes it even more befuddling. But with Kawhi, it was a flash in the pan moment, and he's had injuries since then. But with how kind of iconic that run was, I mean, the shot that went viral, that was everywhere, that everyone can already have the image in their head just by me saying the shot by Kawhi Leonard. Um, that that was a fumble by them as well. But nonetheless, I don't think it is equal to this fumble because this is prolonged. This is like a LeBron of fumbling. It's a prolonged tenure of just over and over again deciding to not show up. I'm comparing the tenure, the length to LeBron and the greatness of the fumble. LeBron is great, has not fumbled for that long, obviously. We'll talk about LeBron a little bit more later. To move into the upcoming games for the Heat. The Heat's next game is at the Bulls. It's an NBA Cup game. This is a do or die game in terms of our standings in the Cup. We are 1-1 in Cup games. It's really hard to. I mean, 2-2 is fine. It's you definitely want to be 3-1 or 4-0 if you're planning on moving up. But going down 1-2 makes it pretty rough. Same as like a series, really. We will be playing the Bucks eventually in the Cup, and they may or may not have Giannis for that game. So that would kind of, if we win this game and the Bucks don't have Giannis and we win that game, then the Heat will definitely be moving into the next stage of the NBA Cup. But we have to win this game for that to be the case. We have to win it. Chicago has been playing really well. They're 8-6. I'm not sure if they played last night, actually. Let's see Chicago's record real fast. Chicago record. Bulls. My goodness. Let us take a moment here. Yeah, they're 8-6. They've had the second hardest schedule in the league. The Heat have had like the third hardest schedule in the league. They have a 15th ranked offense, 19th ranked defense. These stats were searched up Tuesday. So if they're a little outdated because we're still early in the season, one game can really change some of these things. The Heat at the time of this were a 10th ranked offense, a 12th ranked defense. I think that slightly changed after last night. Nonetheless, still around there. So we're a better net rating team than they are. They're the number 3 team in pace. The Heat are still number 1 with a bullet in pace. So that means it's going to be likely a very fast game. They rebound well. They're top 10 in offensive rebounding. They don't allow offensive rebounding. They're the number 1 team at shots attempted at the rim. They're bottom 2, though, in shot percentage at the rim. So they get a ton of shots at the rim. They don't make them all. But nonetheless, this still puts them at top 3 in points in the paint. So, you try enough times, you make enough shots. Percentages being bottom 2 just means you have to be a few percentage points below what other teams are at. They're number 4 at corner 3 frequency. They shoot a ton of corner 3s. So they're either at the rim or they're corner 3ing, and they're top 4 in shots made from 3. So they make a ton of those corner 3s. You got to be on the lookout for that and close out well on defenders, make them readjust. Their defense also allows a lot of rim shots. They're bottom 2 in terms of preventing people like getting to the rim. They guard the rest fairly well in terms of what they allow. They're not good at guarding in transition. They don't rank well in transition defense, which kind of explains why teams are able to get to the rim so well against them, usually in transition. I mean, sometimes you're spraying out to a 3-point shooter, but a lot of time you're trying to hope for a rim basket. So it'll be hopefully a fast-paced game, and if we're playing fast and they're already not good at guarding the rim and guarding transition, then they may be meeting their match in terms of transition play. We're going to be able to get those fast buckets, whether it's off a rebound, off a steal, off a turnover, whatever the case may be, and score at rim. Transition buckets, that translates to close range shots, that translates to their lack of rim protection. That means hopefully Jaime, Ware, Wiggs, even Bam in transition would be doing some numbers there. Something to look out for. Not incredibly turnover prone, but Matas, Buzelis, and Okoro are both slightly turnover prone, so we'll nag them. And this is in terms of percentage of possessions, not total turnovers. They don't have the ball all that much for them to be racking up a ton of total turnovers. But in terms of when they do have possession of the ball, a large percent of those, or a good percent of those, ends up in turnovers. So if we can continue to abuse those guys and get some turnovers, continue to run out in transition, it'll snowball. So let's see. It is cool to say that the Bulls are like actually a fun team, and they'll probably still be around 500 again, but they're more fun. There's a good vibe there. There's a young energy, young core that's kind of building up, and you can see somewhat what they're maybe doing. So really excited for that as well. And then next, we will be playing the Heat. Will be playing the 76ers. That'll be interesting. Let's just check quickly Embiid injury before we talk too much about this. Uh, let's see. Excuse me while we check this up. He is doubtful to return against Toronto Raptors. It seems like there's a chance because they're talking about whether or not he may be ruled questionable. So he may be back for the game against the Heat on Sunday. I would hope for their sake. Whatever, want to be teams at full strength. Don't necessarily want to rack up wins against teams that are missing people or to keep having trap games. The 76ers are currently 8-5, at least at the time of writing this. Let's see, they're now 8-6. They are 8-6. They have the 8th ranked offense, 18th ranked defense. This was as of Tuesday again, so some things can change, but they have a very good offense. Not the best defense. They don't quit. They are tied, which this was crazy to me. They're tied for the NBA record for most wins in a season when trailing by 10 points entering the fourth quarter. This was from Basketball Reference. They have 4 wins already this season where they were trailing by 10 entering the fourth, which does speak to a little bit that teams maybe get let their foot off the gas playing against them, not expecting them to come back. But it was surprising me more than anything that 4 is the most. 4 wins in a season is the tied for the most. This is from Basketball Reference. If this ends up not being true, someone tell me. But they're a reliable source. Looking at some other stats, they are towards the bottom of the league in allowing offensive rebounds, although they're top 10 in grabbing them. So hopefully between Bam, Ware, our guys, we can crash the boards a bit on them. They take a ton of long mid-range shots. They're 7th in the league in frequency at shooting long mid-range shots. They're top 10 in three-point accuracy, but they don't necessarily shoot a ton. They kind of, as you look from their shot chart, they shoot from just about everywhere equally, but they do take more long middies than most other teams in relation. They score well in transition and like to get out in transition. That's kind of their go-to. Maxey has been just a speeding bullet down the court, and VJ Edgecombe is just a ball of athleticism. Jared McCain's back too. He's pretty shifty, pretty fast. And then in terms of what their defense allows, this is where things were interesting. I'll say this was a deepish dive. They allow a ton of short middies and corner threes, right? They're also terrible at guarding in transition off of live rebounds. They're not great at guarding that. They do somehow guard well off of steals, but off of rebounds, off of missed shots, they do not guard well in transition. And they are a bottom 5 pace team in the NBA, which was surprising. I guess just the minutes they do play with Embiid slows them down. Didn't look too much into that. Where I did do a dive is that teams don't shoot a great percent against them at the rim or even from the mid-range as of yet, despite them allowing a lot of mid-rangers. And I wanted to see what this was. Is this because of something with defense? Is this an anomaly? Is it the teams they played? Like, is it a product of that? And I think it is. So players left open, this is a tracking stat on the NBA website. Players left open for twos. For open means no defender within 4 to 6 feet of you. There is another category of wide open, which is like 6+ feet of you. But players left open for 4 to 6 feet, no defender within 4 to 6 feet of them, have shot 51.9 from 2 against the 76ers. That's 4th best in terms of luck. So Only three other teams have had a better bad shooting percentage when players have been left open shooting against them. So there's definitely some luck there. 51.9 on open twos, no one within 6 feet of you is odd. And they're top 8 in luck in terms of like, again, fourth best teams have shot worse, eighth best in terms of teams shooting worse. Top 8 luck leaving open from three. So again, 4 to 6 feet from three, top 8 in luck. And they're top 7 in shots of this frequency of open shots. So they're very frequently allowing people to be open 4 to 6 feet away from the person they're supposed to be defending, but they're very frequently being bailed out. Teams are missing those shots. So that was interesting to see. Teams are making wide open shots against them. Not that there's been a ton of those, but the frequency for open shots 4 to 6 feet was high, and the luck is very high. So that'll come down to earth as well. Will Embiid play? Of course, as we kind of hit on the top, is a big question. Right now, his on and off is negative on the season for the first time ever. And I'm sure in other season stints this has been the case, but for full seasons, he's never been a negative plus minus. And this is mostly being weighed out because he was terrible in his first game of the season. This is where people were thinking that he was done. He just looked completely slow, chalked, excluding that one game from their record, and he's only played six or seven games this season, excluding one that he was terrible in. They have a plus 4.9 net rating with him on the court. So that'll probably be more accurate than a negative net rating with Embiid on the court. Even if he's only 70% of the player he once was, this was an MVP who was scoring a point a minute, which was insane. He's a talented player. Tyrese Maxey's one of the best players in the league in preventing turnovers right now, and he's a sniper from three, even off the dribble. He's just having an incredible season. I don't know if you can call it a breakout, because last year was already kind of a breakout, but just another one. He's just taking it up a notch. So shout out to that. VJ, I still think he's going to be incredible. The defense is there. The athleticism is there. But the shot has started to come back down to earth, which is good for us. And Kelly Oubre has been a great vet for them. He's been great from mid-range, great from the rim, just a good scorer for them to have, and just been playing honestly like a good vet. My milk or wine take for this game is that it'll be like an 130 plus point game against them. They allow currently 115.9 points per game right now. And with how fast paced this game is going to be, with how the Heat have been scoring, with some exceptions, I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game. 130 plus win for the Heat. That's my milk or wine take. And then just to put it in milk or wine, I don't know if I use the phrasing, but for the game against the Knicks, my milk or wine takes are that transition buckets, Jaime, Ware, Wiggs, they're going to pop off. And then Matas and Okoro, they're going to have a tick up in turnovers. Those are my takes. We'll see what happens and how it goes. Also, I don't think we'll have Hero for any of these games. I think Hero is more likely coming in sometime early next week once we're back at home. I believe we're back at home after this 76ers game. So really, really, really excited to see Hero back. Hopefully on the Sunday pod, we'll be talking about how the Hero return game is upon us. We'll find out. Few random things before we get out of here, just very quickly. Giannis is out 1 to 2 weeks with a groin injury. So I went ahead and checked what's Bucks' schedule with him out for 1 to 2 weeks. If you look at just 1 week from the injury, they're playing the Sixers, the Pistons, the Blazers, and the Heat. So he will likely be out, since they said 1 to 2 weeks, and the Heat are playing him at the end of this 1 week stint. He will likely be out for that NBA Cup game against them. So hopefully this is a cup win for the Heat. Hopefully the Heat move on to the next stage. They announced that we had this goal of winning the whole cup. Let's see if we can do it. But that's going to be a hard stretch for them without Giannis. Those 4 games, Sixers, Pistons, Blazers, Heat, those are all possible losses. I mean, they'll probably at least win one of those, but it's tough. After that, they play the Knicks. So if he's still out for that one, that's another tough one. Then they have 2 easy ones, Nets, Wizards, soften the load a little bit. I mean, hopefully he's already back for that. And then they play the Pistons again. So there's a chance that at least in their next 5 games that they only win 1 without Giannis. There's a chance. That's what I'm kind of thinking. As I was looking at this, just their on-off stats, when Giannis is off the floor, the Bucks are being outscored by 12.8 points per 100 possessions. So not great when Giannis is off the floor. Some of the players who were breaking out for them to start the season are kind of also coming back down to earth a little bit. We always see this going into seasons. Just another thought quickly. Now, I'm not going to belabor this, but just a scary thought that I hope doesn't come true. As much of an OKC fan as I am, they have the Clippers and Utah's pick going into this. Like at the end of the season, whatever happens to the Clippers and Utah, OKC has their pick. The Clippers have been terrible. Utah's been better than expected, but I feel like they're going to likely pull the plug at some point and start tanking again. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll try because of this. Um, what happens if OKC gets a top 3 pick in this draft, in this loaded draft, even a top 5 pick? It's unfair. It's truly unfair. I don't think this should be. It's like I don't know how to not allow something because teams, they got these picks fair and square. But man, it's just crazy. Then 2 more things before we go. I just want to take a moment to appreciate LeBron. We're going to do this a lot this season, I'm sure. As the first player ever to play 23 seasons, LeBron is going to always be my GOAT. He won 2 championships while on the Heat roster. So going to always be grateful for that and for the times that I was able to spend watching LeBron play basketball. Just the best player of our generation at the very least, whether or not you think he's better than Jordan, who cares? But the best player of this generation. He's played 23 seasons and he's played, including the playoffs and regular season, 71,101 minutes and counting because he's still playing this season. The next highest is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with 66,000 minutes. And just to put that in perspective, this is coming from The Athletic. They said they found the year that a player played the most minutes with season and postseason combined. It was Wilt Chamberlain, of course. Played 4,501 minutes in the 1968-69 season, which is ridiculous. But even if you were to add that amount to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, it still wouldn't be enough to reach LeBron. So, I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to break this record, truly. It's like one of those Kareem records in terms of longevity. I don't think anyone will ever play more total minutes of basketball than LeBron James, of professional basketball, to be clear. It's crazy. And then, last but not least, that's just a shout out. Udonis Haslem's also on this list. He's in the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, top 12. He played 24,916 minutes. That just goes to show everyone above that is at like the 40,000 minute mark and above. So people don't play a lot of minutes. Not that many, at least. Last but not least, though, I did want to talk about KD on Houston has been a revelation. I mean, I was high on them going into the season. I don't know how people were not high. I think most were. There were a few contrarian takes out there that were a little questionable about it. But this was a team that was the 2 seed last year that had one of the best defenses in the NBA, that added one of the best scorers the NBA has ever seen. The way that they're playing, the amount of offensive rebounds they're getting, while that might tick down a bit, I'm sure it will, is still great. The fact that if things ever get stuck in the mud, they can just let KD ISO or even let Şengün ISO. His game is really nice. He's a really, really good offensive player and just a great rebounder as well. Him and Steven Adams together are, Steven Adams is doing a lot of the heavy lifting there, but Şengün has been a great offensive rebounder. And the fact that they have a ton of very tall, very athletic players to rebound as well helps. Reed Shepherd has come alive for them and is being able to shoot from 3 is just, this team is really good. And it makes me think, what would it mean for KD's legacy if he wins with Houston? We've rightfully so taken away some credit for him winning with the Warriors because how stacked that team was. I think people have poo-pooed him a little bit too much for what happened with the Nets. I don't think that was really on him, and they almost went to the finals, and it was a crazy year with COVID and players getting injured, and kind of crazy. And then no one knows what happens on the Suns. No one knows what happened there, but I don't think it'd be right to say that's all KD's fault. I don't know. If anything, I blame the owner for the trade that they made, the GM and the owner. But if KD can win this championship with Houston, I don't know, man. It would be really cool for him. It would be really, really cool. I think that's like one of the things I would be most happy with. Not that I would want most necessarily, but if that's the result of the season, I think that's something that I would look back upon and think that's pretty cool if that happened. I wonder what you all think about that, to be honest. But nonetheless, that closes us out. We'll just end this quickly with a fired up and burnt out. My fired up is completely unrelated to basketball podcasting. I'm fired up to be hanging out with a few close friends of mine this weekend. We're going to be taking a trip up to Orlando and one of our friends is flying in from out of town, another friend who lives, more in Central Florida, picking them up and getting all together. These are people I've known my whole life. So just to, be able to hang out all together, pretty fired up about that. And something I am burnt out by. Man, I'm burnt out. This is a cop out of an answer. I'm burnt out by how the zone defense has been getting to the Heat, and I am excited for that to not be the case anymore and for them to be able to break that. I'm burnt out by that. But that's all. Again, thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you for listening. Leave a like, a comment, subscribe, 5-star rating, all that. We appreciate you. Burnouts, we're out.